You're listening to Keepers of the Clow, a Cardcaptors podcast, available on YouTube, Spotify, and other services where you can get podcasts. Keepers of the Clow is a fan-produced podcast. We are not affiliated with Nelvana, Pioneer Entertainment, Madhouse, Clamp, or any other relevant license holders. Any statements and views expressed are our own and not endorsed by any license holder. Not really. I've had all day off. I cleaned my apartment. I've been playing Pokemon Emerald because I have a mental illness that manifests itself as playing Pokemon games.
Hey, I can relate. I'm such a Pokemon fan, too. And I go back to the old ones all the time. I've done Nuzlocke and all that stuff, so yeah.
I kept telling myself I don't want to play these old games anymore, but like with Nintendo coming out and being like, hey, so next year we're shutting down all the online services, and Pokemon Bank isn't going away when we do that, but also you should probably transfer all your Pokemon soon. Okay, yeah. So either Pokemon Bank's going away before, or it's going to have like a few more months after. So I figure if I want to play any of these old games and be able to keep any of these Pokemon, I should might as well start now.
Yeah, this might be a fun question for people who also like it. What is the farthest back Pokemon that you still have access to? From like how far back in years can you go? And what game is it on?
Okay, so that's an interesting question actually if I delve into it, because basically I never really transferred a lot of my main story Pokemon off their games. They've just been sitting there. But last year I went ahead and scraped all my old games, so that included all of my Pokemon games going all the way back to Leaf Green. So I currently have a Venusaur named Momiji who is waiting for her time to be in the Scarlet and Violet DLC. That thing's all the way back from like 2000, whenever Leaf Green was, 2004.
From which game?
From
Emerald?
Leaf Green. Yeah, from Leaf Green.
Leaf Green. So it goes back for you to the Game Boy Advance.
Yeah, as far back as it possibly can go.
So I have one that I don't think I could bring into present day, but I do still technically have access to it. And it's the first shiny I ever caught, which was a yellow Oddish in Pokemon Silver. And then I transferred it to Pokemon Stadium, and it exists on my Pokemon Stadium cartridge.
Oh, okay.
So I have a shiny Vileplume named Yellish, because I was so creative. That still exists, and that's like my thing. Because I remember catching it, it was so freaking exciting, when it was shinies were brand new in Gen 2. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know, I love all that. Speaking of Pokemon, though, there's a trading card game for it. Are you into that?
I don't actively play it. Sometimes I'll still go buy a card pack, but no, I don't actively play the TCG.
Are you into any of those kinds of things, like Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic?
I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh a lot. I still also collect cards, and I have played Master Duel when it first came out, but I don't like the competitive scene of Yu-Gi-Oh. Gotcha. It's just like the game is. I don't want to sound like a Yu-Gi boomer, but like the game's unplayable in its current state.
I mean, I have to relate because I've tried to play it too new, and it's sort of like the stuff that we grew up on that kind of was more straightforward, made sense, and matched with the show is gone, and now it's like, I'm thinking if we were up to date on the show or something, maybe it would be different. No.
The show is completely different from the actual card game.
Well, they kind of branched away.
Oh yeah, totally. Like the show actually still like the show understands that it's a card game between two people, and there has to be back and forth. Unlike how the game is played in real life, where it's basically you flip a coin and one person gets to play solitaire for 5 minutes. Like, right. that wouldn't make a good episode. So no. They actually play the game back and forth in the show, whereas...
I love how you described it.
Yeah, modern Yu-Gi-Oh is just garbage.
Well, I ask because, I don't know if I've shown you or mentioned it, but I am working on a continuation of the Sailor Moon game that was made in the early 2000s with an artist named Daniel. And we're continuing it because it was, like, the core bare bones of it. There was so much heart there. It had such a good start, and it just needed to be A, refined, and then B, continued, because they only did, like, spots from the first 2 seasons. And I've been having so much fun with that I realized I think I like creating card games and strategies.
That's interesting.
Yes, and so I decided, I just sat down and started writing it out, and I'm designing a Cardcaptor Sakura one. with the idea being that
there is a
you would
Cardcaptor
have a main deck and then a Clow card deck, and the sort of descriptor of the game is that in this card game world, the Clow cards have escaped again, and pretty much anyone can become a Cardcaptor, and Cardcaptors will sometimes battle, like spar, like do magical sparring, and the lore is that they play for like a victory card. So one of like the loser passes a card on to the winner. You don't actually have to do that. Right. But you have to fill your star meter to win the game. And the way you do that is at the start of each game, you choose a certain number of your Clow cards from your Cloud deck that escape. And they end up in the wild zone. And your job is to then capture other players' cards in their wild zone to like, and you get star meter points and all that. So I've kind of been building it like that just to sort of see where I land with it. And I think if I keep going and refine it, it could be something pretty fun. Do you have any interest in working on projects like that?
I've honestly never built a game, like a card game before, so I don't know how useful I would be in that, but I mean, I'd be interested.
I would probably be looking to you for things like
if you just
comparing lore to the game mechanics. Does that make sense?
If you needed lore and, like...
brainstorming...
If you needed lore to, like, apply to the mechanics or something, yeah, could totally do that. Flavor text, got it. Like, actual mechanics of the game, yeah, that'd be all you.
Correct language. Well, that's fine. I want to control that anyway, but I need, like, correct language to use. Like, if, like, for example, I went with something like a star meter because it seemed to fit the theme. You know what I'm saying? I also need to decide, like, there's flipping coins. They do Gen-Ken Pawn or Rock, Paper, Scissors in the Sailor Moon one.
Sure.
I need to choose a mechanic like that and all that. But anyway, I just thought that might be interesting for people to hear about, and we'll see what comes of it. Yeah. But I'm glad that we're still rolling ahead, because it was so funny to me that this was the next episode after the one we just had. Because I thought the last one was so good. And let's talk about this one.
This is the first one where we see a marked drop in quality of in general.
Yeah. But I have to say I like the name Trouble at Twin Bells for the Cardcaptors.
Yeah. Okay, maybe like, I must have missed that other part because I only wrote the title down as Twin Bells. I was like, okay, that's a weird title, but yeah, okay, Trouble at Twin Bells makes more sense.
That's what it was listed on the wiki anyway.
No, that's probably it. It's but like I've been going by the file names. The file names are probably abbreviated. Maybe I did that. Maybe the place I got them from did that. I don't remember.
What is the Japanese or original title?
It's Sakura, a Panda, and a Darling Little Store. Very long.
They said Sakura, Panda, and a Cute Shop. I don't know which translation is. They probably made it smaller.
You know what? I didn't write down the Japanese name. I did think it was weird that they used the word darling, because that's not the Japanese word that they use. Yeah, I thought it was just an interesting translation.
Yeah. So even a lot of confusion about the title already.
Yeah.
This episode, to me, is... Have you ever heard a song that has, like, a really good build-up, and then when it hits the climax or the drops, the bass or whatever, it's, like, terrible? And you're like, great build-up, what? Do you know what I mean?
I think I know what you mean.
That's the, like, map of this episode, how it hits me. I'm curious to see if people will agree by the time, you know.
Okay.
Did you feel that way?
I mean, I don't know. I'm so familiar with the series at this point that I don't necessarily have that kind of emotional roller coaster anymore, but I totally get how after the first 4 episodes, this is kind of where the show felt like they were skimping on their budget a little bit to like roll it forward to a later episode, because like some bigger ones are going to show up soon. I think you know how like a show comes out the gate like with better quality. They have like they got a lot of money up front. They had a lot of time and effort in those first few episodes, and then like they kind of slow down a little bit. It's like running a marathon where you start going too fast, you realize you got to kind of like roll back a little bit. That's what this episode feels like.
Yeah, and I think the card that they chose to do that with was a good choice, though. Because if you were gonna go kind of low budge on a certain card, I think this is the one.
Yeah, which is a shame, because this is also one of her like high utility cards, but in terms of the actual like Clow spirit itself, when we see it, it's like, yeah, what were you supposed to do with this one?
Let's get into it. So we start the episode by seeing a little girl who we find out later is named Chelsea, surrounded by a bunch of stuffed animals, which, again, I just thought that was interesting because we've been talking about them a lot. So
I don't think that's Chelsea. I think that's just a generic girl. I'm pretty sure that's because...
Oh, maybe you're right.
Yeah, because, like, so the plot of this episode is that the girls go to a new shop in Tomoeda in Readington, which is the actual name in the dub, and Chelsea is the one who buys the panda, who is the catalyst for the events. So that's the first time she's ever seen it. So it can't be her panda. So it can't be her. Right. It can't be her in this first one. She's just generic girl.
See, and that kind of is one of my issues with it already, because the pacing on this was extremely quick in a lot of ways. Where I felt it was jumping back and forth a lot, and I was like, wait, who is that? Wait, what?
Yeah, well, it might interest you to know that they did make a big cut early.
Yes, what is it?
So all right, so let's go through the early part. So we started in the girls' room, and the stuffed animals go all crazy dancing around. Which I made a point of pointing out that, like, there were some weird sound effects in this scene. So after that, Sakura is going to school on her rollerblades. Great sequence. Shows off her skating, and she comes by a new store that is opening in town. It's called Twin Bells, and the owner of it is Maggie. Her name is dubbed from the Japanese name for Maki. So, which, as far as name changes go, that's like one of the least extreme ones. She then goes to school and lets Maggie let her set up the shop. And here's where the cut is, because we then get like 2 minutes at the school of Sakura's life. They do her cheer practice, and then she goes down the hallway and sits in on Tomoyo going through a music class. So we get the first instance of Tomoyo singing to show off that, you know, she's a good singer. That's like her big personality thing. Not at all in this episode, obviously.
No, I had no idea she was a singer.
Yep. So that entire scene is excised from this, as well as basically all the cheering scenes. As a result, the big plot change, though it's not a huge plot change, is that in Cardcaptors, Sakura is the one who has to invite the girls to go to Twin Bells, whereas in the Japanese version, Chelsea, or Chiharu, is the one who approaches Sakura and asks her if she's seen the new store and wants to go after school.
Guys, there was tons of really great stuff. Wow, I can't wait to check it out. Hey, do you think she'll have any of those new camera bags in her store?
That part doesn't really change the plot at all. It's just you removed 2 minutes of the episode, so you had to put the impetus on Sakura to get everyone to Twin Bells.
Yeah, I didn't notice that they had made any cuts there, though. So they did it in a way that was, I guess, it flowed well enough. Also, during her rollerblading scene, it's that Just Around the Corner song again. I think we've heard that before already.
Yeah, I think they use that every time she's skating outside now.
Okay, so that might just be the skating song.
That does seem yeah.
I also, again, I thought it was interesting that even though this is where the episode drops down in quality, the whole thing we've been pointing out were the massive amount of work they put in on details, like things like the stuffed animals in her bedroom, and then we have a whole episode that's about them. And they did have to put in work in a certain way, like with the shop and everything, but I did feel like the rest of the episode felt a little plain, you know?
Yeah, I can totally see that. Like you're right. The store Twin Bells has a lot of individual like assets to create, you know, if this was a video game, but same deal. Like, you know, it's got a lot of individual things that had to be drawn to go in the store.
Yeah.
But you're right. This episode is a little low energy. It's one of those kind of more subdued ones where, you know, no animals are dying. There's no mortal danger really posed. There's just kind of like this very low key mystery of like, is Maggie selling a cursed panda that, like, you know, when you buy it, it sneaks its way back to her shop. Like, that's the mystery.
And I think it hits fine if you're like binging or even watching 3 or 4 in a row, because it can kind of be like, that one wasn't the best, but whatever, on to the next one. But when we're doing it in the format of like, it almost feels like it was when it was on TV, right? If we were able to watch it in order, it would have been this, like, last episode, and then we wait. And then this one, and then we wait. And when it's, like, focused like that, it kind of makes it stand out a little more, I think, about how the issues with it. One thing a little detail I liked, what was Madison wanting to find in the store that was not a stuffed animal?
Oh,
do you remember?
I think she wanted something for her camera, right? She wanted like batteries.
A new camera bag. I thought that was cute.
New camera bag. I said batteries because either that's what she wanted in the sub, or I just got the wrong B word. Batteries, bag. Like bag at least makes sense. Although they do cut it. They do cut it out of that montage. You know where they're setting up Maggie's shop. They cut the frames where Tomoyo is holding a toy that was made by the Daidoji toy company. So it's a frame where Tomoyo is holding a box, and it zooms in on the box, says Daidoji Toy Company, and she smiles. It's just a little nod to her family, and they cut that.
That's bummer. I wish they would have kept that, because I noticed some of the other details, like the penguin Sakura was putting away, reminded me of the slide, and I just thought the whole montage was cute. Also, I noticed a painting on the wall that I thought was really adorable. Do you have any idea what the painting was of?
No, I
3 cats out in the sun. It's so cute. Like, see if you can clock it if you go and look back at the frames.
I mean, I'll have to go back just to get footage, but yeah, okay, I'll make a note to like look for the 3 cat painting.
Yeah, I love that stuff. I love looking at all the weird details they put in the background, because I feel like when you're an animator working on a show like this, those are the things where you get to be kind of the most creative, because it's the lowest requirements put on you, probably. You know what I mean?
It's the sort of thing that no one will ever pay attention to, right?
Except me. That I pointed out to everyone. But yeah, so I thought that was cute. I like Twin Bells, by the way, in general. I think we can agree it's a pretty well done location. It's
a nice little store. It's the sort of thing that I can't imagine exists or could exist now, but like it's a little, I don't know if the proper term is curio shop at this point, where it's just a little toy and other like knick-knack shop that you would call a pawn shop if it weren't for the fact that it's apparently just purely catering to like stuffed animals and other like
cute crap,
girly things. Like,
well, it reminds me of the not the Hello Kitty store, the Sanrio store almost, in a way, where it is just that kind of thing, and it would almost be like the shopping experience is part of why you go there rather than the merchandise, even.
Sure.
But no, I don't see it doing well in capitalist America,
especially not in 1998, where this is like well past the economic collapse in Japan.
I mean, it would be a cute little setup at like a farmer's market.
It's like it's Clamp. Let's just pretend that the economy wasn't in a downward spiral at this point.
What a great world to imagine, though, that we were like. What if that was something someone could aspire to? I want to be the shop owner of a cute stuffed animal and other things store, and I can support my life. Like, that would be great.
Like, I want to think. I should probably talk about it when we get to that point. But I have a theory on how that store runs.
I think it's a drug front. But anyway, I'm just kidding.
Not quite, but almost.
She's got she's like a grow house in the back. It's if you've ever seen the show Weeds, like she's anime Nancy Botwin. Anyway. So also speaking of quality, I think this episode was probably dubbed pretty early in the process since we don't know the order because I thought a lot of Sakura's lines were very stiff in a way that they are not usually. So to me it came off as she was a little more green in this one. I don't know if you picked up on that.
I didn't make a note of it. I didn't feel like she was particularly stiff or bad in this one. But yeah, this is only episode 5, and going by the theory that these were dubbed in order and then just not aired, because this episode wasn't aired, or at least it wasn't aired in North America.
I don't know what it is. I don't know if the other ones before it were dubbed earlier or not than this one, but she sounded, I think, more confident in them with her acting. There could have just been an off day too. You never know.
Can always be that, or the director that day was different.
Which could make a big deal, a huge difference. So we just left off episode-wise after they help with the store, right?
Yeah, and that's where Chelsea buys the panda that you already know there's something wrong with it because we, the viewers, saw it being weird, but then Maggie's also like, showing an expression that like that panda is bad news, but can't stop Chelsea from buying a panda.
What a weird thing to have to think about. Like, I as an adult am pretty sure that is a cursed toy, and I have to sell it to this little girl because I will be labeled insane if I tell her that. What an unfortunate position.
It's an unfortunate thing, but I feel like you could have controlled it because it's like, so the lore is that she's allegedly sold that panda multiple times and it's come back.
Stop selling it.
Yeah, exactly. Just like throw it in a fire if you think it's actually cursed.
Or just make it the store panda. Like, it doesn't go.
It's like, anyway, just make it the mascot or something.
I guess then we wouldn't have had an episode.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you just gotta sometimes you just gotta let the plot.
Yeah.
You gotta let the plot be a plot.
Yeah. So after she gets the panda, though, we get to see everyone back in Chelsea's room, which I guess you're right. This room has a lot more stuffed animals than the one from the beginning.
It's like a safari in here. Don't you think so, Sakura? Yeah. Hey, Chelsea, where's that gigantic teddy bear you got for your birthday?
Yep.
And they're all chatting in there, and then they leave, and we hear, I think it's similar to the sound effects in the beginning. I noted they were kind of funny here.
Yeah, they just hear sound and run back to the room. They see it's been ransacked and the panda's gone, which they think, they have multiple theories. They think maybe your standard breaking and entering, but they don't really have an idea. This scene is... The compositing of this scene, though, is interesting. Like, the way the scene is cut where they're walking through the hallway is... I don't know exactly how to describe how different it is, but it's the same way that we didn't talk about it, but, like, during the montage scene where they're kind of, like... It's just, like, little squares with a little bit of animation and the rest is black screen. Like... I made a point of writing down the episode director's name of this. It's Mamoru Kanbei, and the animation director was Makoto Koga. So I'm wondering whose creative insights it was that led to this unique setup of scenes. Because this episode just visually looks very different compared to other episodes.
It would be nice to find out. The main thing I took away from that was the name Mamoru, though, because that's Tuxedo Mask's human name.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and blame him just based on that alone. But no, I get what you're saying. There were a lot of creative choices made in this that I would like to know. They're very different from like you said, the first 4 episodes, right?
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of directors throughout the series, that all leave their interesting marks, especially also in just how the characters are drawn. Like, I have this great graphic that's been passed around for years of like what Sakura looks like per episode, depending on who the animation director was. They're all subtly different and identifiable if you know what to look for. It's the sort of thing where it's like one of these two people brought an interesting creative energy to this episode.
Well, what we can do is see who, like, if any other ones land on an episode that feels similar in aesthetic, and if it matches or not.
I think this was the only time Mamoru Kanbei was on an episode. I was doing this. I have an entire Excel sheet of the episodes and directors. I think I already checked that it's like this is the only one that he did. So
it might be him then.
Or she. I actually don't know offhand. Well, Mamoru's a man's name. So
yeah. Well, we have this moment between Sakura and Madison after the panda disappears during what I thought looked like PE class.
It is PE class, and it is it is the site of our Julian cut for this episode. He's in the episode for exactly 2 seconds, but he's there, and I'm counting it.
I forgot he existed.
You might as well in this episode, because
he's not there at all.
He and Tori are in this episode for 2 seconds, and it's basically just a cameo. In the subversion, they cut it out of Cardcaptors. So put it up on the board. That's our 6th Julian cut.
Poor Julian.
Yeah,
I mean, honestly, if it's that easy to cut it though, and have it not feel like it's missing, I'm just saying.
Yes.
I'm just saying.
Our poor boys just got removed.
I know. I do love them though, but it is a little bit. I think it kind of proves our point though for people that focus overly too much on that aspect of this show, is that it is really a small percentage of it, just objectively speaking.
It was just like it's 2 seconds of a scene that you otherwise left in completely after you already cut 2 minutes out of the episode. Did you really? They were just part of the establishing shot.
Well, does that mean
doing
then
anything
that this conversation was focused more on that, or was it actually just about the stuffed animal?
No, their conversation was about, was it a burglar or was it something weird?
I was thinking, something in this equation just doesn't add up. What do you mean by that? Well, we had just left the room when we heard the noise. How did someone get in, steal the panda, and then get out again so quickly without being noticed? Yeah, I was wondering the same thing myself.
Was it a cloud car? They weren't talking, again, Toya and Yukito were just part of the establishing shot, and they cut them. That's all I'm really going by there. Otherwise, it plays out normally. They discuss maybe it's a Clow card, and they decide to bring Kero over to the store to have him check it out because Sakura doesn't have the ability to sense Clow cards yet, so they figure they'll just bring Kero, the Clow card detector, over there. And then I didn't make a note of it, so I'm guessing they didn't. Then Sakura is called to go do the vaulting horse jump. After that, I think they go
to the store again.
Yeah, they go straight to the store first.
This is what I was talking about, though, because we start the episode and we see the unnamed girl's room, and then we have the Sakura on the rollerblades, and then we have Twin Bells, and then have her at school getting everyone to come to Twin Bells, and then we're back at Twin Bells, and I'm just like, we are not even halfway through, and we've gone back and forth to different locations more than 7 times already. So it does this episode made my head spin a little bit with how often they changed the location. The PE conversation was probably less than a minute long, right?
Yeah. It really was needed just to establish why Sakura and Madison.
I'm not saying it's not needed.
Again, yeah.
I just think, but I think because isn't that also the PE thing? Isn't that where they cut Julian again? Or is that what you're talking about? That made it feel even shorter. And then that's why when you jump from that back to the store, it's like, oh my god, we're here again already? What? Speaking of though, what was Maggie's big solution to this issue? What did she want to do?
Oh, okay. So so this cuts back to this cuts back to my theory of how the store actually runs. So in the dub in Cardcaptors, they go back there and they talk to Maggie, and she finds the panda and she's like, oh no, the panda's back, and she kind of sad sacks throughout this entire sequence of thinking that she's just going to close the store and give up.
See, rumors started that if you bought a toy from my store, someone would steal it and bring it back. But the criminal was never found. They even accused me of doing it. Oh, maybe I should just close the shop.
Whereas in the sub version, they actually cut part of this conversation out where Maggie reveals that her husband died recently. So she's been she opened this store because I guess she and him had wanted to open a store together. So she's carrying on his legacy with the store. But the fact that the panda kept coming back to her made people start spreading rumors that she was like selling merchandise that she would then steal back and resell. So she's a crooked business owner. But yeah, my theory was just that like the reason the store can survive at all is because it's being fronted by a massive life insurance check.
Do you know what I know what it reminds me of is like the people who they have like the homing pigeons, or they'll train an animal to come back to them after they sell the animal or something. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
it felt kind of like that, but also that theory that people like. I think they portray her like she's worried people think she's, what you said, stealing the merchandise back and reselling it. What a horrible business model to do that with like a $5 toy.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, like it's like. Yeah, it sounds stupid when you say it out loud, but
it's fun to think about it.
Yeah, but when you're in a situation where you're a shop owner and you sell this one unique item that keeps finding its way back to your store and you can't explain it, okay, the answer is either, cursed object or you're cursed, one or the other.
Yeah. Although my whole point, though, was like her go-to was we should just close the whole store. And I'm like, why can't this lady get that if she just stops selling the specific toy that's giving her problems, she might be okay?
Yeah, that's why that's why I said she was kind of like sad sacky about it instead of just just throw the panda in a fire.
God, that might have been a horrible decision, though. I can't imagine. What would happen, do you think, if a human accidentally attacked a Clow card like that?
Well, we find out later in the episode that the card can just move from body to body at will. So, honestly, if it was in the Clow card, if it was in that animal right as she was about to throw it in the fireplace, it would probably just jump to it.
That makes sense.
It would probably be fine. And in terms of the question of what happens if a regular person tried to attack a Clow card, I'm not actually sure that there's ever been an instance of. Well, okay, there have been instances of it. That's a couple episodes down the line with Silent, where her whole thing was just like, if you make noise near her, she'll just push you out of the room. So presumably, if a Clow card is capable of defending itself, it will.
That makes sense, but it seems like they won't actually try to harm. Most of them won't anyway. Try to harm a person unless they have to.
I mean, unless you're watery and you want to drown people.
That seems to be the only one so far that's tried to hurt anyone. Shadow was more mischievous and destructive.
Yeah, and Fiery, I mean, like, Fiery just set a place on fire. Can you blame her? She's literally made of fire.
Right. It's kind of just like, what do you want her to do? I noted that they discussed that they're going to come investigate it again at night, and most Clow things to happen at night. I think we've said that before.
Yeah.
But just in case, that is a detail that they chose to do with this series that was not done in Sailor Moon that I appreciate a lot. Because it's like a more realistic approach because she has to be in school. So she can't be out during the day.
Like a lot of Clow cards, I don't know if the series ever explicitly says that it has to be at night. Maybe the dub says that, but I don't know if it's necessarily the case that the Clow cards are necessarily active at night, or yes.
No, I think it's just when she's free.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's why I like it, because it does make sense. It would be weirder if she was constantly just like bye and not at school randomly to do this, and then we have to deal with her explaining that to people and like, why weren't you in school? And it creates this whole mess that is not interesting. So
yeah, that's very much a shonen thing. It's not so much. It definitely happens in shoujo stuff too. But yeah. The Sakura got lucky that most of the cards either attack on weekends or after hours.
Maggie, that tea you made the other day was so delicious. Do you think you could teach me how to make it?
Of course, Madison.
What is the plan, and how does it go down when they get back to Twin Bells later?
So, like I said, the plan was to bring Kero, the Clow card detector, to just just go around the place and look. And while they're doing that, they have Madison distracting Maggie in a sequence that is actually completely unchanged from the Japanese version.
Did you know that video editing is all digitized now? You can do everything on your computer. All you have to do is drag and drop scenes. You can do dissolves, render effects, add titles and music, all on your desktop.
Uh-huh.
I download all of my TV footage to the editor. Sakura, if you don't hurry up, I'm going to run out of things to talk about. Straight from my mom's website.
Because she asked Maggie to teach her how to make the tea that they had earlier in the episode. And then when the tea process is done, she's still got to distract her for like several minutes. So she starts talking about the origin of tea and, editing videos and camera stuff. And that conversation is almost like word for word the same thing that she was doing in the Japanese version.
Well, I'm glad they kept it because that was one of my favorite micro details of this episode. I noted specifically Madison getting excited to tell her about the camera and the video editing and all of that, because it was a cute facet of her personality that I also thought was delivered so well by, help me out,
Maggie O'Hara.
Maggie O'Hara, because it was just like this bubbly, I'm having this conversation and I'm explaining it, but she did it in a way where she didn't pause enough to let Maggie jump in or whatever. And it was just fun. And I liked her going off about the things that were interesting to her. I missed the tea part of it, I think, because I was writing a note. Because it comes up again later, and I was like, what? Tea? But now I understand what that was about.
That's how it goes. It's like, hey, teach me how to make this tea. And then it's like, okay, I should go back to my shop. Actually, did you know that the history of tea is that... And then, she runs out of tea things to talk about, so she does the proper thing for public speakers to do, which is when you run out of one topic, you fall back on something that you could talk at length about. And for Tomoyo, it's either video editing or sewing.
Yeah.
I know there's something magic around here.
Well, maybe it left the store again.
Oh, that's it!
Huh?
That's the jump card!
And we get... while all this is going on, we find the Clow card, or Sakura does, in a box, and I enjoyed the detail of the blue and yellow band around the box. I have a thing about different colored bands. I just enjoy it. So that was there. And then we get the card named, finally, which is what?
That's the jump card!
The jump card.
Yes. And what does it look like in its true form?
Nothing like what it looks like on the card, that's for sure. It's probably the most different of the cards in terms of its card form and its true form, quote unquote. It's this pink rabbit kind of looking thing. It's just straight up a rabbit, I guess.
It's an angry pink Furby combined with Makona from Magic Knight Ray Earth.
I hadn't thought of Makona, but you're right. It's like he's got the same long legs, It's the same
body.
Basically the same body. Basically the same body, a long, thinner ears, and he's got a tail coming out the back. So he's kind of like if Makona got struck by lightning. Yeah, because it's also got the little frizz of fur around it too. It's not quite it's not quite smooth like Makona is.
This might be my least favorite of all of the Clow cards' true forms, and I think some of their true forms are just object.
Yeah, he's a bit rough.
I don't get why it had to be so ugly. Why does it look like that? I don't know. And then also, like you said, it's so drastically different from the design on the card that I think that disconnect sort of sticks for me mentally in a way that's hard to get past. And I think all the other ones, they're not exactly the same, but you see the connection very clearly.
Yeah, there's generally not, because on the card form, Jump has wings and looks more like just a more standard rabbit.
It's like an angel rabbit, kind of.
Yeah, whereas Jump is just it's
like a gremlin version of it.
Yeah, it's this hideous Furby thing.
And it looks dirty to me. It's part of it.
Very unkempt. It's weird. So, fun fact about the manga, the Jump card is technically the first Clow card we ever see, because that's page 2 of the manga. You see this thing. And I wonder if that was a case of very, very early on in the series, they actually had very early on, they were trying different philosophies for like what the cards would look like in their card form and out of their card form. And maybe they initially started out with an idea of having the cards look more different when they're out of their cards. And Jump just happens to be the prototype of that.
I can see that.
That's just my theory on that. I don't necessarily know because
But you're saying it looks the same in the manga.
Yeah, in the manga, it also looks like this. So either way, it doesn't look like it does on the card. And yeah, I totally get how it's kind of like, eh.
Yeah. The funny thing is, though, as far as the utility of this card, it is one of my favorites. It is,
and it's got it like when you cast this card, because you don't see it in this episode, but you'll see Jump throughout the series. Like, yeah, it just manifests as it just manifests as a pair of wings on her feet, and it's like, that's peak design. Like, that's great.
I love that.
I love seeing this card be used. Hate seeing it on its own.
Speaking of when she uses it, it kind of reminds me of the hover boots from Zelda, Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. For anyone who knows.
Yeah, same deal. Like wing shoes. Like either way, it works.
So at least it has points for that. But after we pull the card, it kind of starts freaking out and jumping around, and Sakura manages to grab onto it and then gets launched like up into the sky.
Stop right there!
And this part, for anyone who's scared of heights, I'm sure they would be like, "Oh my gosh," because I would feel that way. And I'm impressed again with Sakura's ability to think clearly in moments like this, because she's essentially lets go and is free falling down.
Yeah, like she either lets go of it or loses grip on it. Either way, yeah, she's like 1,000 feet in the air at this point. It would be indeed a very unnerving position when she looks down. It's basically Looney Tunes style. Like, you look down, you realize how high you are, and now you're falling. Yeah. But yes, she keeps her wits about her and pulls out the fly card. Once again, doing exactly like episode 1, where she throws the card and it conveniently boomerangs back into swinging range. I'm just thinking, like, boy, you're really lucky that that's how that works, because it seems like the worst idea to throw your spell away. But yeah, dramatic animated flair. Like, I feel like I would not be throwing these cards like this.
Well, it seems that they kind of, once they've captured the card, I think the way I explain it is they still have control over the physical card itself to a certain degree. And when they're activating their magical powers, it's kind of like the card is, once it's thrown, it's being activated and it'll position itself where it needs to go. That's the way I always sort of thought about it.
Yeah, like a fair enough way.
But who knows?
It's dramatic animated flair.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's all it is.
That was one of my favorite parts of the episode, was her summoning Fly when she was falling. I thought they did such a good job. When she turns, there's this little like feather animation thing that was really well done. And then, like I said, this was a great build-up. This gave you a lot of like adrenaline, and then the way that she corrects the situation, I thought was pretty epic, even for just using the Fly card.
Yep.
We land, and it still keeps going in a positive way here for me, and she uses wood to create sort of like a forest dome around Jump, and I loved that, because not only was the animation great, I thought the application...
One card! Form a cage of branches to trap Jump! Release and dispel!
Or more the idea to sort of cage it in something and to use wood instead of windy. Wood is a little more sturdy, you know?
Yeah, it probably could have escaped.
Yeah. And it's just, again, a gentle way of doing it. What happens after that?
Granted, you know, it escapes from wood too, mostly because...
Well, it can get through the canopy.
Well, yeah, because she captures wood, and then Madison shows up and says, "Did you capture the card yet?" "No, I haven't." "Great, let me film that part."
Huh? Sakura, have you sealed the card yet? Huh? I'm just about to. Oh, good. I was afraid I'd miss it.
Unfortunately, that amount of delay is enough to give Jump the ability to break out of the dome. Otherwise, like, Sakura probably could have captured Jump right there if she hadn't stopped and given, like, Jump the opportunity to leave.
Yeah.
But that's when Jump gets its way out and picks up the we kind of glossed over it, but, like, Jump ran out of the store with honestly way more stuffed animals than were in that store, let's be entirely honest. But yeah, he gets all of those and forms this giant Akira, like, Colossus version of itself out of stuffed animals.
This is where it lost me a little. But...
Yeah, so this one also kind of lost me a little bit in the sense that so they changed the sound that Jump makes. In Cardcaptors, they give him kind of like a Godzilla roar. Sort of thing. You know, it's turned into a giant rabbit, and
that was the reference, clearly.
Yeah, it roars like a giant monster would. Whereas in Cardcaptor Sakura, in keeping with the series trend of, like, being serious but not too serious, it makes this boing sound.
Yeah.
When it roars. So it's like, you know, the sound of, like, when a door stopper gets kicked.
Yeah.
They boing.
A spring. Yeah.
Yeah. It makes that sound as a giant rabbit. So it's kind of weird change. Like, I feel like they could have left it. They could have left it as the boing, but this is Cardcaptors.
You mean that's the roar?
This is Cardcaptors' effort to toughen up the show's image a little bit. So they took at the expense of taking out some of the comedy.
Oh, you mean it made the boing sound in the original version?
Yeah, it makes the boing sound in Cardcaptor Sakura.
Oh, okay. Oh, I hear you.
It makes it, whereas in Cardcaptors, because they want the show to be more serious, they took out the boing and they gave it a Godzilla roar.
I think the boing would have made it a little more fun. The reason this lost me is because it's so far all of the other cards have sort of the influence they have over the world and the way they function has something to do with what they are.
Right.
And there absolutely was nothing to do with Jump that would say this thing can absorb a ton of stuffed animals and become a bigger version of itself, which then can no longer jump and has to walk so freaking slow. Like, it made itself not what it was. Does that make sense?
No, I totally get you. Like, I agree. I've never understood why Jump controls stuffed animals, other than just, like, they say offhandedly, it's like, well, it kind of looks like a stuffed animal. Maybe it wanted friends.
It feels like lazy storytelling to me.
It feels like this is one of those cards where it's like they couldn't think of anything better to, well, no, okay, so I do feel like there are some cards that were created because they felt like there was a good scenario to write, but the card itself is fairly useless. Mm-hmm. This is kind of like the opposite, where, like, the Jump card is one of the most useful cards in the deck, but they had no idea how to make jumping a challenge.
Potato sack race.
So they just gave it a different... They just gave it an unrelated power.
I think there were so many ways that they could have had this be more interesting. They could have done something when it comes to gymnastics and had it be, like, interfering with that in some way, like trampolines. We had the minute where they were in like the PE class. There's all kind of sports that has jumping in it. Like, there were so many things they could have done that it just felt like you said, they didn't know what to do, and for some reason they didn't try to figure it out. They, like, went with an idea that maybe they knew wasn't that good. Also, the way it gets defeated, it just exhausts itself and falls over.
It just, which I personally I think is hilarious because but it is very anticlimactic that it's just like it gets into this giant form and then it trips over its own feet and falls apart. So you're right. Like, I think this card could have had more going for it. Like it could have just been a chase through the city kind of card just because of how mobile it is. But
yeah, do you see how though the way that the card capture ends? It's like there's the whole mystery in the beginning, which is I would say is fine. Mm-hmm. Then the actual once you get into the mystery at night and you start going after the card, it really ramps up in a really great way. Yep. And then you get to the end of it and nothing happened. Yeah, and you're just like, what?
Yeah, you're right. The pacing of this episode is kind of all over the place.
It's horrible.
I don't really feel like the cuts made to it by Cardcaptors are really at all fault in that. It's purely original sin of just this episode was just poorly paced.
I think the cuts maybe made the pacing stand out like 10% more, but I think I would have noticed it either way.
Yeah, because they still did have to cut, again, you have to cut, 4 minutes out of every episode.
Did you notice, though, when she captured it, that the card looked, gigantic when it landed in her hand?
I didn't really make a note of it, but, yeah, that's sort of a thing where,
Well, I think maybe it's because it was huge when she captured it.
No, that's just straight up. That's just straight up animation error.
Go look at that frame. You'll be like, why is the card, the size of her
maybe.
head?
Yeah, because there's, There are sheets that I have that show they were very meticulous in showing how large things should be in relation to Sakura, but sometimes things just kind of fall through the cracks, and that doesn't happen.
What is the real challenge of this episode that Madison reveals at the end, though?
That they have to get all of the stuffed animals back.
Yeah, to the store. There's hundreds of them.
That was a great job, Sakura!
But that was easy, Kero.
The jump card's a real fighter, but it's not the smartest card in the book.
Now for the hard part. What do you mean? Well, just that the three of us have to take all these toys back to Maggie's shop.
We end up back at Twin Bells, and we see Chelsea buying another toy, and it's a stuffed lion this time. Yeah. And Madison says it seems like Chelsea doesn't know about the jump card. I think they must have just been, trying to emphasize that it's still a secret, right?
Yeah, it's a thing that no one ever figured out what happened, and Maggie, passed out when the jump card did all its shenanigans in her house, so, she completely forgot. And apparently she must have just paid for a new window, or insurance did, to cash another massive insurance check for her. Yeah, that's it's returning to the status quo is very common in all Cardcaptor Sakura episodes where there really isn't any kind of long-term damage.
Well, and I thought that was I think throughout the series, it's probably a parallel to real life in the sense that, unfortunately, even sometimes the worst news, it's after 2 or 3 weeks, most people do forget. Mm-hmm. And not everyone. I'm, I guess, unfortunate enough to be someone who remembers almost everything. But when you talk, the older you get, you realize a lot of people really don't. They really forget after a week or two. And you're like, oh, okay. So, yeah, it is kind of a thing where if you've ever dealt with someone who, when they're younger, they're dealing with something maybe messed up that happened to them, you do have to remind them, most people won't even remember this in a couple weeks. You probably won't even care.
No, probably not. It's
depending on what it is.
No, it's subverted in this meme I have where it's try to think of, I know you feel bad, but, think of the cringiest thing that someone else has ever done. You can't think of one, right? That's because only you are cringy. You are the only cringy person in the world.
Well, no, it's
it's bamboozled. But no, yeah, it's literally no one cares.
Because everyone's too busy being worried that they're cringy.
Yeah, exactly. You tripped in front of a crowd full of people. It's great. You're going to remember that for the rest of your life. Everyone else is going to forget about it because it wasn't.
Unless you're wearing a great a standout outfit, then they might be remember when that guy in the bunny ears fell down? That was weird. No, but yeah, it's one of those things where it's kind of this never even really got resolved, and everyone's already moving on, everything's chill. Mm-hmm. So it's very much like real life. Do we want to rate the episode before or after Kero's Corner?
We might as well do it after Kero's Corner. There's only one thing I want to say about Kero's Corner, and it's the apparent lore drop that Kero makes, which is that they claim that the house was built right after Tori was
The Avalons built this 2-story house the year that Tori was born.
Which is an interesting bit of lore that's not in the original series. So cool. Like, that completely counteracts things that are established much, much, much later.
It's kind of a cute thought, though.
It's just letting Matt Hill just, like, ad-lib and add whatever he wants to the series.
Well, there was no costume this week, so...
There was not. It's just that nice blue dress.
Which I wrote, when I first saw the dress, I was like, oh, I kind of like her dress. It's like Little House on the Prairie, but not. And then when I realized that was the outfit, I was like, I don't like it so much anymore.
I like that outfit. I might also just be biased because I actually own a cell of that outfit.
Fair enough.
But also, that outfit is one of the only ones in the series that Sakura wears more than once.
Interesting.
Because she actually wears it in, and this might actually be an appropriate callback. She wears it in the shot card episode, where in the shot card episode, she actually flashes back to this episode. So, like, it might have just been an intentional callback. That is why she's wearing this dress again. Yeah, for a series where Sakura has a very, very deep wardrobe, this is one of the only outfits she wears more than once.
Well, that actually is kind of interesting.
It's just a nice blue dress with a sunflower on it. I think that's a sunflower. No, that's not a sunflower. That's a
It's long sleeves, right?
Yeah, it's long. I think it's a Cosmo. The thing on the dress, I think, is a Cosmo.
And what color is it? Teal?
White.
White.
The flower is white. The
dress.
I think the dress is a dark blue.
Dark blue. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm with that. It's a nice looking little outfit, and I noted it in that way. It just didn't read as like a capture costume to me at all, you know?
Well, no, it was just a casual dress.
Yeah.
Which, is interesting that they, that Tomoyo did not bring a costume for her to wear when they were going explicitly to capture a card, but this was a time where Tomoyo was running interference, and actually this was purely a stealth mission. So no, Sakura actually couldn't wear like an elaborate costume. Or
I was just going to ask if you thought it was a budget saving thing or actually related to the story, but I think you just explained it. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, it just narrative wise, it makes more sense that she couldn't wear a costume because they needed to distract Maggie, and it'd be really hard to do that if Sakura showed up wearing some weird outfit and then Madison tried to get Maggie out of the house, or like get her out of the store.
You're right. All right then. So there you go. There's the costume. Let us know what you guys think about not costume, about the dress that will return in the comments, and let's rate the episode. How many stars do you give this one?
So this one's easily an episode that I don't feel guilty about giving like a 2 on. The only thing that's important about this episode is giving her probably her most useful card after Fly. But beyond that, as an episode, as a piece of media, it's at or below average.
Okay, I think that's fair. I gave it 3 out of 5, just one above you, which I think the thing that made it go above a 2 for me was specifically the scene when she's falling from the sky up to the point of the thing escaping from wood. Because I thought that buildup was done so incredibly well that I gave it kind of like a little bit of a reprieve for it. But I had to knock 2 stars off of it for the pacing and for the design of Jump as its true form, and then also for the way that everything ended. It was just so blah, like such a blah ending.
I'm actually going to give that 1 star back. I'm going to give it 3, just because you might not like the anticlimactic way that Jump was solved, but I thought it was good. It calls back to Cardcaptor Sakura's trend of taking itself seriously, but not too seriously.
That's important.
I think it keeps the series lighthearted enough.
I think, you know what? I think, like you were saying, if that boing sound effect had been kept in, then it would have made more sense why there was a comedic ending to it. But because they kept it, like, so serious all the way up until when it fell over, you never saw that it was supposed to be funny, really, until then. And so when that happens, you're like, it's not funny, it's annoying. That's actually stupid.
Yeah, exactly. Like the original episode.
I think you clocked it. This episode, excuse my French, by getting rid of the boing. But I think that's it. I think that is where this episode lost its way, and that edit is a Cardcaptor edit. So
that is absolutely. I blame it on Cardcaptors. They screwed it up by trying to make Jump threatening, just forgetting the fact that it's not threatening at all. It's not supposed to be. Like it's very much a facade Clow card. It looks intimidating, but it's a paper tiger, or in this case, a stuffed animal.
Right. And I think that it shows how important things like subtle sound effects really are when you are creating things like this, because a change as small as that was enough to throw the whole tone of everything off, to the point where, at least, I mean, other people, if you guys are able to watch it, let me know if you notice this too. But you can't clock the humor because it's so aggressively, like, the sound effects are so aggressive, and that makes it not land later. You know, so I'm wondering if our audience agrees on that point.
Yeah, because the other thing, I wrote it down, but it's not a big deal. Like, way earlier when they're in the chase, or no, I don't think it's in the chase. It's where, it is in the chase, where, like, she's about to be attacked by a rain of stuffed animals. They cut part of that. Like, they cut, I think they cut the initial frame of her being hit in the head by a stuffed animal. It just kind of bonks off her head, and she's just surprised that, oh, right, it's a stuffed animal, it doesn't hurt. Yeah. They cut that part too. So it's like, that was just genuine comedy that should have been left, like, that's just like slapstick that should have been left in. But they cut it, like, the rest of it's in there. The rest of the stuffed animals falling around her, that part's in, but they cut out the comedy moment of the first thing hitting her in the head. Why?
Well, and it again, that choice, that micro cut, actually did make a big difference, because with the boing and with that cut, that is two indicators to the audience what type of tone they want you getting from this scene. And with those two things removed, it doesn't read at all how it was supposed to.
Yeah, so, this is definitely the first episode I think we can both agree was actually harmed by the edits that they made.
Yeah, and it's fun. I think it's fun that some episodes were, because if it was a perfect thing, this would be boring.
Yeah, so. I mean, Allies definitely had to be rewritten entirely because of what they cut. That's the episode 3 with Watery, where they had to cut out all the Julian parts about the date. Yeah, they had to do that, but they wrote around it, and the episode, as presented, still basically worked without it, whereas this one, the things that they left in but changed hurt the episode. Yeah. So it hurt the tone.
Sound off in the comments and let us know what you would rate this episode. Reminder, both of us ended up giving it a 3 out of 5 stars. And I had mentioned before, it's like a song that kind of has a really great build-up, and then the drop is horrible. The best example I thought of is a song called Naughty by Gwen Stefani. Ignore the lyrics when you're listening to it, because it doesn't matter. However, musically, this is exactly what this episode is. There's this incredible build-up, and then right when you get to the drop, it's just like her making, we'll go with vocals, sounds, over like weird bad drum beats, and up to that point, musically, the song is like impeccably done. So whoever wrote that song, I don't know what happened, but they have the same issue as whoever paced this episode, or I guess whoever made the Cardcaptors cuts for this episode, because it's the same exact feeling. Do you want to add anything else about this?
No, I think that's it. I think we've said what we can about this one. Like, it's not like the worst episode ever, but it's definitely not one of the better.
Yeah, I think it's good that it's like one that I wouldn't say to skip it. You know, if I was gonna, like, if someone was like, hey, what episodes do I need to, like, can I not bother with? I would still have them probably watch it, I think, for certain reasons.
It's one of those ones like, hey, I need to watch Cardcaptor Sakura, but I can only watch 30 episodes of it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, let me show you the Cardcaptors dub, and this one wasn't in it.
What's our next one?
The next one is, I believe that's episode, okay, so that's episode 6, so that would be the, I don't remember what the English title of it is, but it's the Memories of Her Mother episode.
Okay, I don't recall that one at all, so we'll see how it is.
It's the next one where Sakura almost dies.
Oh, good. Well, that sounds a little bit better than... Not in a... That sounds funny. It sounds like a more interesting story than what we were presented with this week. I'm not excited for her to almost die. I did not want it to sound like that.
It's the first of several times where someone falls off a cliff.
Oh, I'm not going to love that. Well, it'll be all right.
If you don't like heights, you're going to not like the next episode.
Well, she can fly and now apparently jump really well. So
she can jump good.
She'll be fine.
Hey Cardcaptor fans, welcome back to the Merchandise Spotlight. Have you ever actually wanted to read the Cardcaptor Sakura manga? Would you like to? Well, today we're going to go over the various US printings of the manga that gave us the Cardcaptor Sakura anime. The anime that would eventually become Cardcaptors. The first printings in the US were by Tokyopop. They kept the standard tankobon size, but they flipped the books to read left to right for Western audiences. After that, they rebranded the series as Master of the Clow, and printed issues 7 through 12 as issues 1 through 6 again. Very confusing. And then they went back and reprinted the first 6 issues in a collector's edition that restored the right-to-left reading style and brought all the books into a size that's standard for Western manga. After that, the series was printed by Dark Horse in 4 gargantuan omnibus issues. They're pretty rare these days, and it's probably your most expensive option. And last, we have the anniversary editions printed by Kodansha. This 9-volume hardcover set is also much bigger than the original printing and really helps give that feeling of reading the manga in its original Nakayoshi form. Anyway, that's all for the Merchandise Spotlight. See you next time.